he is the honorary president of Foundation of the Biotechnology and Awareness and Education, and he is now presently a panel expert of global research for developmental support ventures, consulting services, and also beyond that is also a technical R&D advisor for Ankur Seeds and KYS, SATTSE, and also an advisor to German private sector seed companies. Now as a scientist, as a person who has worked in the private sector and in the public sector, and with his own vision, I'm sure that his contribution of taking the agricultural technologies into the production front will be enlightened by Dr. Sharanang Disa, and I welcome him. And now it is to Dr. Sharanang Disa, please.
Thank you, Dr. Maheshwar, for that beautiful introduction. And it has been a good beginning. Thanks, Rupa ji. And after that good introduction, and one disadvantage of speaking towards the end is others would have covered most of the points which you wanted to cover. So still using my background, and as Dr. Maheshwar suggested, I will try to give my view of the solutions which we can find for the challenges we are facing in terms of innovation and what private sector is doing. And because as I said, I have experience with the multinational, and now when we are talking of global food security, I have had the experience of working in Indonesia, Thailand, Korea, Mexico, and US. So I'll try to just summarize few of the aspects. So then we have been hearing of this food security for several years now. What exactly does it mean? Together for the past 50 years, and we have been talking about food security over the past 50 years. And what exactly was that? That was need for production and access to adequate food grains. And Dr. Mutalik Desai made a very valid point. Okay, food we are producing, whether it is safe to eat, whether we have enough to eat. So food security here means just giving enough food for the people, just to fill their stomachs. Then we thought of, okay, whether they are eating right food, does it have proper nutrition? So nutrition security came into being. So I'll try to briefly cover in the next 10 or 12 minutes the food security as well as the nutrition security aspect. So nutritious and safe diet, it is very important for the development of children. Oftentimes we hear malnourishment and there is micronutrient deficiency in the food, and that's why children are not growing up properly. There is blindness or whatever. So then it helps in children for a proper growth and development. They become healthy adults, and then in adults it promotes the health and prevents diseases for adults. So micronutrient malnutrition, bigger problem than food energy deficiency. That was just a point I wanted to start with. And when we talk of innovation is, even agriculture is a very typical thing. Now we heard Sudan and then also Mutalik and also Amarnara, and they were all trying to talk about different aspects of a technology. When we say agriculture technology, it is basically agriculture technologies. It's a group of technologies. We have water management, we have soil management, we have pest disease management, umpteen number of things. And then there's a real big challenge to produce food in a safe and sustainable manner. You produce food fine, but then as they say, the old saying goes, one man's food is another man's poison, but there is slight change in that. When we are in the process of producing food, we are poisoning our atmosphere, we are poisoning our ground resources, we are poisoning underground water, and there is depletion of water resources, we abuse or misuse those. All those things I think we need to address. That's the general thinking about which I'm starting. And then we talk of FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, the United Nations body, which is vested with the interest and job and responsibility of feeding the world with a good, healthy food. So what is their vision? World free from hunger and malnutrition. I mentioned about malnutrition already, where food and agriculture contribute to improving the living standards of all, especially the poorest, in an economically, social, and environmentally sustainable manner. That is very, very important. Technology is fine. We can go on inventing and finding many innovative technologies, but how far they are useful, how far they are sustainable, and how they are practically utilizable is the manner at which we need to look at. So with that, so I'll just briefly touch upon 4 pillars of food security, as mentioned in some good literature. It is about availability, access, utilization, and stability. New, existing, and emerging technologies can address the 4 dimensions of genetics. That's why we talk about technologies and food security. Now we have several technologies which are already there. New technologies are coming. They are being made or tailor-made to solve the problems that we are facing with. And then we try to also address the things which are, and the future emerging problems, it is very, very difficult to predict. One big challenge of developing technology in agriculture is it's a very, very dynamic situation. By the time you are finding one solution for a problem, there is another problem that is coming. Any technology is meant for solving a particular problem. You take the example of insect resistance or disease resistance or whatever. By the time you are ready with the thing, nature has a game. It will just overcome that, it will change. We call it as developing resistance. In insects, it happens. Many of you must be aware of BT technology. When it was coming in the beginning, many people thought it is the best technology because it prevents addition of chemicals, it prevents environmental hazards. Then slowly other aspects started emerging. This is one just example how one can lead to another. So then genetic modification is another big thing which we do in private sector. Dr. Maheshwar asked me to mention that we do a lot of that. Conventional breeding methods combined with the modern advanced technologies like CRISPR-Cas, gene editing, genome selection, those things we keep on doing as a routine. And then idea is to bring the technologies to the market as quickly as possible in a more efficient manner. And idea is to also combine the traditional as well as advanced technologies. So the theme or the credo of my company, the Dutch company, Manmohan, was progress with tradition. So tradition we are not forgetting. It's where on which we build our technologies, our innovations. We don't on the traditional platform. We have to adapt and incorporate the newer technologies into the agriculture system. So as I said, I have tried to put here how these four pillars are met, like availability, accessibility, utilization, and stability. One area which we are working very, very critically in the private sector is biofortification. That means adding more nutrients. Vegetables are looked at as health foods. So we try to biofortify them with the nutrients that are healthy, nutrients which are beneficial for human health. So then we also try to use different to do that. In Africa, I think there is a scientist participating from Africa. There is a good example of trying to enrich corn and sorghum. Then what are other issues? So this Maheshwar and Rupa mentioned we have a challenge now. Right now we are about 7 billion, increase the food production by 70% more. So than what we are producing, we should produce 70% more. That's a big challenge. And that too, dwindling resources. Land is going out of cultivation. It is being put to more and more non-agricultural uses. Water resources are dwindling. And we are trying to make water efficient crops. And we use technologies like drip irrigation. We, as I think Rupa ji also mentioned about the hydroponics, aeroponics. These days, the new technology that is coming is urban agriculture. We are talking of multi-storied farming. Then we talk of multi-level cropping. So these are the things which I think we need to look at. These are all to be used in a balanced manner. So what's happening is acceleration has to happen. You have to do it fast. We have no time. We are racing against time. So that has to happen. But then what is hampering those? Or what is preventing those? Natural resources, their degradation is there. Biodiversity is going. There is a big hue and cry. And spread of transboundary pests and diseases. When you're talking about a global scenario, you have to think global and act local, basically. And then the whole world has to come together. Different countries have to join hands in managing the pest and disease problem. Now, best example is the corona. We are facing it. Similarly, in plants also, as many of you are aware, this year is the plant health year being celebrated by United Nations. They want to impress upon people the importance of controlling diseases, controlling the trans-border transmission and those things, awareness they are trying to create. So satisfy increased demands on agriculture with existing farming practices it's more difficult. And it also is likely to lead to intense competition for natural resources, increased greenhouse gas emissions and further deforestation and land degradation. When you have to increase production, you have to increase the land. Then you take over the land from the forests. As somebody mentioned about salinity tolerant crops and different hardy crops, like the crops which can grow with less moisture. And another interesting thing which I observed in Italy and Spain and few other countries in Europe is feminization of farming. That means the people, the male members of the family are migrating to cities and towns in search of employment. It is for the ladies of the house to take over farming. So that's an interesting development, feminization. And in India, it is not happening. We know a lot of people migrating, but along with them, the whole families migrate. So that's another important aspect which I noticed. I don't know how far that is relevant, but I thought I'll just mention that. So what is needed is innovative systems that protect and enhance the natural resource base while increasing productivity. You have to, because agriculture, as I said, is considered as the most polluting thing on earth. You use water, you use a lot of chemicals, you use a lot of fertilizers, then everything goes into water bodies and the groundwater, and hazardous chemicals are added to the environment. You heard a lot about drinking water being polluted by many of the pesticides. So all these things, I think you have to always protect the nature. So enhance the natural resource base. Productivity has to be. This is a big challenge. As Rupa mentioned, it is much easier said than done. A transformative process towards holistic approaches. I think the two of the speakers, Sudan and Mutalik, made it very, very clear. You have to have a holistic approach, and you have to protect the environment. You have to also have other systems like agroecology, agroforestry, climate smart agriculture is another area, and conservation agriculture. And it has to be a combination of indigenous and traditional knowledge. Technological improvements along with drastic cuts in economy-wide agricultural fossil fuel use. And one more important thing which of late I have been advocating or requesting people to do is public-private partnerships. Technology is there. We are generating technology. We have the problems. We know how to tackle them. But then how effectively to reach that to the end user, the farmers. There, I think the public-private partnership models, which I have seen working very effectively in the United States and other developed economies, that should be thought about. Now, there are many things like home farming also. If home farming can be incorporated, it can be promoted by some private partners, that would be very useful. I'm not confining only saying, okay, whatever my company or many other companies are investing and inventing, only they have to be propagated. Or any technology for that matter, I think that can happen where the strengths of the public and private partnerships can work together. There can be a synergy. This can be taken to the farmers. So those are the few thoughts I thought I can present in the limited time given. We talked about now a lot is being talked about IT, information technology. We talk of artificial intelligence. We have robotic agriculture. We have drone agriculture. All those things are happening, but then that will take a while. So there are still question marks. These are all emerging. These are all trying to solve the problems in their own way without being aware of what other problems such technologies can bring. So when we have to proceed, we have to proceed with cautious optimism. We have to be very, very careful in using any technology. A misuse of technology can lead to problems. So that we have to be aware. I think we can go on, but in 10, 12 minutes, these are the points which I wanted to make. So thank you very much for all the people who and other speakers also for this seminar. Thank you very much.
Dr. Sharanandi Saab. It was, very realistic and ground truth issues were brought out with your international exposure, and that too with a public-private partnership program. So that is the reality you now impressed for all of us. And you brought another important issue that we should not think of alone a single technology. It must be an inclusive of technologies. Well, unless the cards of different technologies have been focused, then only we can able to see the real outcome of the things. And I'm sure that your 4-pillar program of accessibility, affordability, utility, and sustenance, certainly these are the ones we all should be able to focus when we speak about the agriculture production, productivity, and sustenance. And it is not just mere production. It is not the volume that matters. It is the nutrient content for which you have now brought out a new concept of biofortification. Yes, in days to come, we are all supposed to come out with a technological adoption to enhance the biofortification components of a given food crop. And another important issue what you highlighted is regarding the feminization in farming. Well, this is what the futuristic requirement. That's why in our best IU university, the number of students what we have is more than 50% is girls. So over a period of time, you can see that the girls are going to lead the agriculture in the state and the country. And for all which, again, we have another feminine personality is none other than our Rupa Vasudevan madam. She is again mentoring this concept to be promoted. So your enlightenment was very educative and it was very purposeful. And I'm sure that these concepts are going to be the very integral part of our recommendation in days to come. Thank you once again, Dr. Sharanang Disab. We look forward for your collaborative ideology and support to our university in days to come. Thank you, Dr. Sharanang Disab.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
With this, we are through with the today's four speakers. You know, they're given their own insights, vision, and value-added thoughts. Now, on behalf of the moderation responsibility, I thank them. They could be able to restrict their presentations well on time, and they also, given their best for the subject what is being proposed. Now it is to our senior advisor, Dr. Manmohan Singh Saab, the former Special Chief Secretary of Andhra Pradesh on the revenue section. He is with us now. He is going to offer his concluding, views, opinion, and remarks. Dr. Manmohan Singh Saab.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maheshwar ji, Vice Chancellor of West Innovation University. So really very enlightening discussion today on all aspects of agriculture, especially technology and global food security issues. In today's webinar, policymakers, agriculture scientists, and agriculture practitioners have participated, and they have given their valuable suggestions. They are not theoretical, but they are very, very practical because they are doing themselves, and such knowledge will be definitely easy to adopt by other farmers. It was a really very qualitative discussion today. The Chancellor in the beginning had set the tone for today's discussion, and she talked about the scenario of food and nutritional security everywhere in the world, and how the farmers are facing problems, how we can elevate the situation, and there is a need for participation and cooperation of all the stakeholders. The Vice Chancellor also very nicely regulated and moderated the discussion, and he said transformational change, not only the incremental changes, that is the need of the hour. Our today's speaker, former Commissioner, Mr. K. Amar Narayana, he has given complete agriculture scenario in the country and highlighted the various policy reforms that are needed to improve the situation. Similarly, our eminent speaker, Mr. Sudan Rajagopalji, he himself is an agriculture farmer, and he has given his own experience of ZBNF and integrated farming system, where he is integrating coconut, cocoa, and nutmegs production in the same piece of land, along with animal husbandry, growing animals and using the animal byproducts in the agriculture. Therefore, now he is totally independent of outside sources for chemical fertilizer or pesticide. So now his dependence on outside things are now almost zero. So I'm reminded of one discussion with a very senior officer when I was a trainee assistant collector in 1986. he was asking me, what is development? I mean, generally it's a tradition that a senior officer will be training the junior officer. So he was trying to know my view, whether I know development. So I was trying to say development means growth or something, income or all those kind of things. Then he finally said, the development means going away from dependence. And today this is very much demanded by Mr. Sudan as well as Mr. Abhay Mutalik Desai ji, how they have gone away from dependence. Now he is no longer dependent on a fertilizer dealer or pesticide dealer or even the weather, depending on the weather, as Mr. Mutalik said, when the thousands of hectares of crops were damaged by storm in Maharashtra, his crops were not damaged. So these kind of practices are giving so much of independence to the farmer, which is very important. That is how we can map the development in terms of they are going away from dependence from the government system or as well as private dealers or even the weather. So this Homa, new things we have today learned about Homa, Agnihotri Homa therapy, which is something we never knew. And it's really very useful. It's validated by scientific experiments. I'm sure that our university would also like to do this experiment in its own campus and see that our students and faculty get benefit of this knowledge. Dr. Saran has told many things about his experience worldwide, about food security, nutritional security, and he has also touched upon the health aspect of the food we produce and its impact on environment. The recent report of FAO has brought out very clearly that bad food which we are eating is bringing to us an additional health burden of $1.3 trillion. And the present agriculture practices have environment impact costing $1.7 trillion. So if you take these two aspects, health and environment, this is $3 trillion burden on the people. We are paying it. So there is a need for thinking on the present practice, how we can change the practices which are more health friendly and environment friendly. And today's knowledge on indigenous knowledge, which are inexpensive, they will be really very, very helpful. And the food which we produce, that will be fit for consumption. So ultimately, it boils down to innovation. So let noble thought come from all the directions. That is what Rig Veda said thousands of years back. Let noble thought come from all directions. So these noble thoughts, that is the new innovations, let it come from farmer, let it come from scientists, let it come from government policymakers. So this is how, when we all join hand, we'll be able to really improve the situation. And 3 billion people in the world who are facing food crisis, they will be able to get food at a price which they can afford. So that is the nutshell of today's discussion. I'm really thankful to all the respected speakers who spared their time, and today they came for this webinar and given their valuable suggestions on this very, very important issue. I also thank the chairman of Best Innovation University, Sri Bharat Meena ji, Chancellor Dr. Rupa ji, and Vice Chancellor Dr. Maheshwar ji, and Ambassador Debbie and Ambassador Elise from Africa, and Bradley Emerson from Sri Lanka, and Dr. Ila from Indonesia. I also thank all our staff members, faculty members, students, and all the participants in this webinar. Thank you very much for this coming to this webinar, everyone, and making it a great success. Thank you all. Now we conclude and we close this webinar today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. So nice to see you. I thought you were not here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you so much for encouragement and support.
Thank you, Rupa. Oma. Thank you, Dr. Rupa.
Thank you, dear. Bye. I'll see you in the
Bye-bye.
Amarnath Sahab, thank you very much.
Thank you. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Anand,
Bye, everybody.
thank
Thank you. Thank you, VC Sahab.
Thank you. Namaste. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah,
for
thank you
your-
very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Amarana. Thanks, Amarana.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Let's meet again. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Sharanandi Sahab. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, madam.